Ever wonder if a book's worth reading? If it's worth the money even buying it? Or if it's even worth all that hype? What about a TV show or a movie? You just can't trust the internet these days. I'm Katie, and I'm not afraid to spoil the books and the movies for you. Welcome to Spoiler Alert, and I'll spoil anything. I bet you didn't think that episode 4 of Spoiler Alert was coming so soon, but here it is. Today I'm going to talk about Haunted, Perron Manor by Mountford. So this book's okay. It starts off with two sisters, Chloe and Sarah, inheriting a literal mansion from an estranged uncle. Chloe is married and she has a baby girl named Emma, and her husband, Andrew, really isn't keen on the idea of moving to this mansion out in the middle of nowhere. He's just really not keen on it. He prefers his city life. Chloe convinces Andrew to give it a shot, and she also convinces Sarah, her sister, who has recently retired from the British military, to come home as well. The four of them are going to live together in this house and refurbish it with the inheritance that they got from this estranged uncle. From the very beginning, the author alludes to this incident in 82. Essentially, what we learned from the beginning of the book is that in 82, Chloe, her mom, her dad, and her uncle were staying at Perron Manor, which was being used as a hotel at the time. They don't really get into much detail. All they tell you is that a whole bunch of people died and that the owner of the hotel at the time committed suicide. I should let you know that this book does have some swearing and it can be kind of gross. Anyways, so Chloe, Andrew, Emma, and Sarah all move into Perron Manor. They're really excited about it, and it's really just a gorgeous house. It's just outdated, and so they're ready to start fixing it up. The first day there, they get a knock on the door, and it's this dude, David. David's a ghost hunter, and once upon a time he did an investigation in Perron Manor, and he actually wrote a whole book on it. He tries to convince Sarah and Chloe to let him come and investigate again. David gives them a copy of his book. He's like, hey, can I come investigate your house? Sarah tells him to buzz off. They start renovating this house. There's a lot of work to be done. The heater, the furnace is what it's called. The furnace is huge, but it's super old and it makes a screaming noise when you turn it on. Anyways, they start the renovations and they ask for a local guy to come check out their furnace downstairs. He tells them, hey, basically this needs to be replaced. This is bad. I'll do it. I'll give you a quote. And I am more than happy to make this work for you guys. A couple days later, Chloe and Sarah go to a coffee shop where they run into David again, who gets a tongue lashing from Chloe. She basically is like, leave us alone, stay away from my house, stay away from my family, I don't want to hear from you. While renovating their house, they find this section of the top floor that has been locked, and when they finally manage to unlock it, they find this creepy study that has a pentagram drawn on the floor, and it's got all sorts of occult material, books written in Latin, and there's a massive blood stain on the floor, which is super gross. Ew. When was the last time someone was in there? Was it in 82? Was it before that? Anyways, so they continue to renovate the house. They get their bedrooms the way they like it, and the local guy comes to replace their furnace. While he's down there by himself, he gets attacked by a spirit, and it scares him so bad that he's just like, nope, I am never coming back to this house again. Screw you, screw all four of you, I am gone. And then they never hear from him again. They're freaked out, but they're like, what are you gonna do? Anyway, so Andrew leaves on a business trip, leaving Sarah and Chloe alone with the baby. And one night, in the middle of the night, they just hear this banging on their front door. They go out to the front door, the security light's not on, and there's no one there. So they go back upstairs, only to hear banging on the downstairs door again. They go out there, nothing's there. They're freaked out. And then as they're at the front door, they hear banging coming from the back door. So they run to the back door, and the security light turns on, but there's no one there. So they call the cops. The cops come and they're like, hey, there's no sign of a break-in. Someone broke in. Sorry, I forgot how to English for a second. Anyways, there's no sign that someone broke in. It's probably just someone pulling a prank on you. maybe get some security cameras, but there's really nothing we can do. Anyways, a couple days after they get the security cameras installed, Sarah and Chloe and Emma are all grocery shopping when they get an alert on their phone that something's activated their cameras, kind of like the ring doorbells. Anyways, nothing's there. So they turn off their phones and then they get another alert. And this time they're like, I don't see anything. And then all of a sudden they see like the shadow like in the background, kind of like by the bushes. And they use the intercom to be like, hey, what are you doing on our property? And they just don't move. Like they're like creepy still. Like humans, we move, like we breathe, we have scratches or something, but this thing doesn't move at all. And they're like, okay, time to go. And they just like leave their groceries where they are and they run home and call the cops, only for nothing to be there. Anyway, so weird things kind of happen like this. Chloe is just having nightmares like pretty much every night. And she has in her mind that the house is haunted, which we know it is because it's a horror novel. But that's what she's got in her mind. Sarah and Andrew are like, no, it's not. Like, you need to calm down. It's not. So one day while Chloe is sleeping, she hears Emma stirring on the baby monitor, and she takes a look at it. And her daughter Emma is just pointing off into the distance saying, look, a man, there's a man there. And so she like freaks out and she runs to Emma's room, but there's nothing there. And so as she's walking back to her room, she sees Sarah, but freaking naked. And so she goes and she walks Sarah back to bed. She goes downstairs to make herself hot chocolate, and while she's getting herself hot chocolate, she hears banging on the back door. So she goes to the back door, and the security light turns on, and there's nothing there. And while she's standing trying to see out the back door, she sees a reflection of a dude standing behind her, and he's standing in like monk's robes, and his face is distorted, like his flesh is torn, and he's just a gory mess. She turns around, the dude's just staring there, screaming bloody murder. She heads upstairs, where she runs into Andrew, and she's like, someone's in the house, someone's in the house, someone's in the house. Andrew's like, okay, go to the baby, call 911. And as he's telling her this, they see Sarah, butt naked again, heading upstairs towards that really creepy study. Andrew's like, okay, priorities. So Andrew's like, priorities. And he decides to go downstairs and take a look in the courtyard, and he just searches. There's no one there. He goes upstairs, and Chloe didn't call the cops, but she's with the baby, who is unconscious. And Andrew's like, well, there's no one here. We can call the cops in the morning. So they go upstairs, they get the naked Sarah, they bring her back downstairs. And in the morning, Sarah is like, what's going on? Obviously something's wrong. Chloe's acting super freaky. And Chloe's just like, there's something wrong with the house. And Sarah's like, it's not haunted. Chloe's like, yes, it is. And they get into a big, huge fight about it. So Chloe decides, all right, plan time. So this is Chloe's bright idea. She decides to call David and meet him at the coffee shop where she met him. And she tells him, hey, weird stuff's going on. He tells her, okay, so basically essentially what he tells her is that there's a demon in the house, and it is trapping the spirits of every dead person that's ever lived in the house. And the only way to get rid of it is to exorcise the house. And she's like, wow, okay, this is gonna be hard convincing Sarah to do this. Can you find a priest who can do this? He's like, yeah, sure, no problem. I work with dead things all the time. So Chloe goes home and she talks to Andrew, and he's like, that's weird, but you know what, if it makes you more comfortable, sure, go ahead. Sarah, on the other hand, gets into a huge fight with Chloe, and they have it out, and they're cussing at each other, whatever. It's not good. Essentially, they go to bed angry, and that night, Chloe just has terrible nightmares. There's this nightmare about a creepy dude who recites child poetry and stuff while he throws children into a furnace, and he throws Emma in the furnace in her nightmare. So She wakes up for her nightmare and she hears the voice on the baby monitor of that dude in her nightmare. She gets up and she runs to Emma's bedroom and she grabs the baby. As she grabs the baby, she turns around and there's a ghost of the dude from her nightmare. And he slams the door shut. She screams bloody murder. And Andrew and Sarah come to her rescue, but they can't get the door open. As they're banging on the door, they get a hole in the door. And they're able to see that there's like a 7-foot tall person in there. And they're just like frantic trying to get to Chloe and Emma. Once they get the door open, that ghost is gone. But they're like, that there was definitely something in there. We need to leave. So they run towards the front door, but it's blocked by a ghost, a really gross, decaying one. So they're like, all right, back door, back door. They run towards the back door, and that one there is also blocked by a ghost, just as decaying, just as disgusting. And as they start to run, Chloe realizes the ghosts are like herding them towards the basement. And as they're getting herded down into the basement, the door slams, separating Sarah from Chloe and Andrew. Sarah gets taken out by a ghost, and on the other side of the door, Andrew is taken out like that. And Chloe is desperately trying to protect Emma from the ghost that's on the side of the door, but the ghost grabs Emma. So Sarah wakes up upstairs and she's like, there's this minute, there's just a few seconds where she's like, I need to get out of here, completely forgetting about her family being trapped in the basement. And she's like, no, what am I doing? I need to get down there. I need to help them. Meanwhile, in the basement, Andrew comes to, but he is just super weak. Whatever happened to him has just got him out. And he can see Chloe desperately struggling, fighting against a whole bunch of ghosts, holding her in place. And that one ghost that knocked him out is about ready to throw Emma into a furnace where there's a demon there waiting to take the baby. Stressful, I know. Anyways, so Sarah comes down into the basement just on time, and she launches herself across the room, grabs Emma, and tuck and roll protecting Emma when she hits the ground. So essentially, long story short, Chloe and Andrew break free. Emma's handed to Chloe. Sarah helps Andrew, and they start booking it towards the front door, right? As they're running towards the front door, Andrew, carrying Emma, makes it out. Chloe makes it out. But as Sarah tries to get out, a ghost grabs her and has like got her suspended in the air, pulling her limbs. She's like being stretched, you know? All of her limbs being pulled in different directions. Chloe's like, I'm not leaving my sister. Andrew's like, oh, yes, you are. You're a mom. You need to go. And she's like, no, I'm not leaving my sister. So she heads back and she tries to help Sarah. The ghost drops Sarah. And as Sarah runs out the door, Chloe gets grabbed. And Sarah turns around just in time to see the demon snap Emma's neck. It's devastating. Andrew and Sarah and Emma have a funeral for Chloe. And Sarah tells Andrew in a blatant lie, oh, I am never going back. Once I sell the house, you guys are getting half the proceeds of the house. But I am never going back. Blatant lie. She meets up with David and she's like, hey, how do we have an exorcism? I need to free my sister. And that's where the book ends. If you enjoyed this episode of Spoiler Alert, please be sure to like and then subscribe as well.